Well, thank you very much for joining us here this evening. Let's begin by telling you how AppsForBharat, the parent company of devotional app Sri Mandir, has raised rupees 175 crores, around 20 million, that is, in a Series C funding round. Now, existing investors, including Nandan Nilekani's Fundamentum, Elevation Capital, and Peak 15 partners, also participated in the round. But the funding comes at a time when demand for online puja services and spiritual engagement has surged post-pandemic, especially among young users and the Indian diaspora, prompting platforms like Sri Mandir to deepen their technology and physical presence. Prashant Sachan, CEO and co-founder AppsForBharat, is joining me on the show this evening. Prashant, thank you very much for taking the time out, joining us here on ET Now. It's been quite a journey for you as well. But let's begin by asking you this. How did this idea come through?
Thank you so much, first of all, having me here. I would ask, why not? If in India over the last decade, every important human behavior has moved online, devotion is an important part of people's life. So there should be a digital touch point. In 2020 December, when I was thinking about what should I build, I realized that devotion is a very important need. There's no trusted platform around devotion. And it's essential for people. So should be built. So the question is not why devotion? My way of thinking about this is why not devotion?
All right, fair enough. But talking about what has recently happened for the company, 20 million in fresh funding, Prashant, what doors does this open for you now?
See, I think every category in India has required investment across all sides to be able to elevate that category. Now, devotion as a space has not seen any such investment, be it on technological investment or infra investment for the users or for the temple ecosystem and its partners for that matter. So for us, we continue to do our work. The first thing we are going to do is we are going to do a temple ecosystem expansion. Today, we are working with 70 temples. We will take it to about 500 temples in the next 1 year. Now, that also means that we are going to invest in 20 plus temple towns, which essentially means we will go deep in our partnerships with temple trusts, priests, local vendors, create local employment. And the larger idea is, can we create this digital and physical infrastructure to be able to support our services, which means investing in local commerce, logistics, local employment. On top of it, on the consumer side, we are actually working on creating this whole AI-powered devotee experience. What we realized was the most important need that people have is needs around information. That, hey, I believe in this, I need assistance. Can you keep me well informed? What's the authority around devotional knowledge? So hence we are creating this AI Panditji, which will be your family Panditji, but through an agent. Think of this as the state of the art knowledge provider for anyone, everyone in India, abroad, and so on.
Okay, who would have ever thought about that, right? So that's perhaps a good space, which is why we're looking at the way this has been built over the years. Prashant, and given the fact that, of course, we'll talk about AI and how that's going to be helping the business and the plans going forward. But here's another aspect, because there are, of course, big backers for the company. But what's the big conviction that everyone is sharing about this particular space?
Yeah, see, I think the way we think about this internally is we are building any other Indian consumer internet startup. How food needs are important, how grocery needs are important, devotional needs are also important. So if you think about my org, the kind of people who are working here, the good talent, the way we are structuring things, it's like any other consumer internet company. We happen to solve for devotional needs. And think about this, right? 200 million people pray every single day. They would make offerings, they would do things. 60% of India's domestic tourism is devotional in nature. Now, it is so fragmented. There is need of not one, but a few platforms to be able to structure this. Be it information, be it services, be it products, be it tourism. It requires a lot of work. Maybe the investors are seeing our consistent work, our consumer obsession, and our first principle thinking to be able to solve for this. And that's what they're backing. On top of it, the kind of user love we are seeing, the kind of user growth we are seeing, be it in India, be it outside of India, has been phenomenal. and maybe that's something which is boosting the trust of users and the investors both.
All right, so that faith, quite literally, in fact, is paying off. But Prashant, let me ask you this: considering the fact that you've spoken about how it's panned out in the past couple of years, especially post-pandemic, also there is been, a surge in digital devotion. Even if you were to talk about what happened this year at Mahakumbh, given how those digital services were being used, but would you still call it a trend, or is it here to stay? Because spirituality meets startups. That's being called the next big disruption as well.
See, I think
Of course, you would
if
agree.
if we
But
are looking at
this
this
is
whole
panned out.
need from a perspective of not having a biases of Bangalore and Gurgaon or Delhi, if you go to any temple town and look at the people who are queuing up there, you'd realize that it's predominantly young people who are queuing up for a darshan, for all of that, right? On the platform, we also see that roughly 30% of my users in India are below the age of 35. They are younger people who are praying, opening the app in the morning, offering chadhawa, doing pujas on occasions. It's happening. And we are 4 years out of COVID now. We are seeing consistent trends in India, outside of India, great repeat rates, great user attention, great user love. So if I were to talk about from metrics perspective, it is indicating all kinds of great signals that this is here to stay. It is percolating into the younger audiences. And here's the thesis that I have, right? I think the word today is largely burnt out for all the work that they have done. And I think cultural anchoring is important to help people navigate through the hardships of life. I think of faith and anchoring around faith as cultural anchoring, and people are looking for it. You see the rise of modern day influencers on YouTube and Instagram. That's a leading indicator of how devotional content or spiritual content is rising. And most of the people on Instagram or YouTube would be younger people. So it is not right to say that it is not going to be picked up amongst young people. So there are elderlies, there are mid-aged people, there are young people. All of them are engaging in this, depending on how much time they have, how much uh, of a how much of a engagement or anchoring that they have. But it is happening.
I actually agree with you on the point of how Bengaluru is, because that's actually where I'm from. And given the temple culture, irrespective of the age group, that's something that I've seen from ground zero. And given how we're looking at how digital services also are coming into that particular market, which is perhaps why we're looking at this generation, like you rightly pointed out, on social media as well, with the content aspect of it and what people would want to consume in terms of this space. But the other plan of the company, we understand, which you also did rightly point out, is 20 logistic hubs by the year end. But what is that looking like? Could you tell our viewers as well, is this commerce, fulfillment, or new kind of spiritual infrastructure also that we're looking at? Are there challenges on that front?
Sure. So let's say there's a temple which is somewhere in uh, Uttarakhand, for example, which is online with Sri Mandir. And today a user can book a puja, can book a chadhava in that temple. Let me tell you what happens in puja. So when I book a puja, the priest there will do puja properly, will recite your name. You can join it live, or you can view a video, and we'll send back a souvenir. I would call it a Ashirvad box or a prasad box, for example. Now, today we are doing it in a certain way, but as the demand is increasing, we need to one set up local hubs to be able to do it properly, which will require creating more employment for people associated with temple, local people there, set up sourcing there, set up packaging there, and ship from there. So the way the services happen is I book these services and I get to receive some of these boxes or some of these items from those places. So one is fulfillment on that front. Two is when you think about the digital fulfillment. For example, any temple that works with us would roughly receive 40-50,000 of these requests in a month, which is a huge number when it comes to online fulfillment of these services. Now we are actually investing in digital setups also, where it will become easier for temples to conduct these practices online and so on. So it is both the investments for that matter. Largely, let's say, think about this, right? So I do a puja at a certain temple. What I get back is a is a box from that temple which has goods from that temple, and all of that will be sourced locally, packaged locally, and sent it from there. And how magical is that? The kind of feedback we have been receiving on some of these early pilots, people are saying, "Thank you so much for creating this. Thank you so much for doing this for us. It was it is not imaginable for us because we are here. There's a low likelihood that we'll go there this year, but we think this connection was important, and we are creating that connection."
All right. Ultimately, it is about creating that connection, and if it's being done digitally in today's world, you're right about it. Nobody would have thought about that a couple of years ago. But considering what we're also talking about, what's in line for the company, are you also exploring new product lines, or are you cautious about getting into certain spaces?
See, one, Sri Mandir is a platform for temples, platform for devotees. How much ever work we are doing for devotees, we are doing similar amount of work for our temples. We feel, my view is that Europe has done a great job in elevating their monuments and creating local employment there. We are a land of lot of cultural heritage, cultural monuments, and so on. And there are places of worship which are culturally important but not popular. The popular ones are well taken care of, but the non-popular ones would need work. Where can I create a community around that temple? Can that community engage with that temple? Can that community support that temple financially and in all forms? So the way we think about this is, can we build this platform holistically? And that's the goal. For the users also, I think our investment in AI is a major one. Can we be that source of truth, source of getting any kind of service, any kind of product onto this one single platform? So with that being the core theme, the next few years will be spent dedicatedly on solving some of those problems, for that matter. On the other end, right, anything that this devotee would need, anything which is an essential part of it, we will go build it.
All right. So, given the aspect of how you're looking at that as well, Prashant, but before I let you go, what's the biggest myth about building in the spiritual tech space that you've had to perhaps fight?
Oh, so one, I myself had an assumption that I'll not find an audience in urban towns, tier one towns. I thought that people in the West Valley would not want this. I'm surprised by the kind of demand I'm seeing. So that's a myth buster for myself. Second biggest myth was, and think about this, right? If I were to think about temple, would a temple partner with a tech platform like this? I am essentially grateful for this, for the mindset that is shaping up in this country and in the leadership that we have, where we are talking about digital India. And that digital India is trickling down into temples, temple authorities, the administrators, and so on. And they are realizing that it is important to create access for people. And this theme is all across. I was thinking that this theme might not be there in temple and temple economy, for that matter. And it is surprising me in a big way. So for me, I cannot talk about the word, but for me, two myth busters were: young people will not use it, people in tier one towns will not use it, people in outside of India, Indian Americans, Indians who are established in Canada, for example, will not use it, or temples will not open up. All of this is happening. All of this is happening. All you need to do is just be right by the value, build it trust fast, and if you're able to do that, you'll be able to create very good value for everyone involved.
And that's essentially what you've done, and having a good faith in it, quite pun intended, given the conversation that we've had. But Prashant, thank you very much for your time and joining us here on Startup Central, and wish you good luck with all the ventures as well going ahead. But for the moment, we leave the conversation at that, because we're stepping in a quick break here. But stay with us, lots more coming up on the other side. Don't go anywhere.